Growing up, I knew my parents were there for me. We celebrated family events. They were there for me when I was sick or needed help. As me and my sister grew up, we knew we could count on our parents. We were so proud to be their children. Today, we are there for our parents, to share in the celebration of their grandchildren or to be there when they are ill or need assistance. They can count on us. And now our parents look to us to take care of them. Hello, and welcome to Always There. My name is Michael Wilsker. I will be your host. Thank you for viewing us. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm an owner of an elder care agency called Always Best Care Senior Services. We provide in-home non-medical care for seniors, and we also provide free assisted living and independent living placement. Today we're going to be talking about caring for the caregiver. We often talk about what care is there for the person or the senior that needs the care. But today we're going to talk about how to make sure that the person who's giving the care is properly taken care of and their stress is lowered when they're taking care of their loved one. So today my guest is Deb Dowd Foley. Deb is a social worker at Elder Services of Worcester, of the Elder Services of Worcester area. So Deb, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, just give us a little background about what you do, how long you've been at the agency.
Sure. So I've been a licensed social worker for over 30 years, and I have to tell you, I've worked at Elder Services of Worcester area for over 30 years as well. Started right out of college, went into from case management for a few years, did protective services for a number of years, was a congregate housing coordinator, which worked with elders in the city of Worcester, and then I took this job with the Massachusetts Family Caregiver Support Program almost 13 years ago.
Now you mentioned just in your opening about the fact that you did some abuse counseling.
The Protective Service Unit
Services
is a unit that investigates any reports of elder abuse or neglect or self-neglect. So if an elder is not taking care of themselves and someone had some concerns, they could call our agency or one of the 27 home cares throughout the state and just let someone know, and we would go out and try to work with the family or the individual to see if we could help them out of that situation.
Well, that's interesting because I got a phone call. I don't know how this person got my number. I think she went online, found my company, and called me on an 800 number to tell me that she had somebody in her family that was being abused. Her sister was being abused. Her sister was in her 90s, and she was being abused by her granddaughter. And she was asking me for what guidance she can give me. And first of all, I was set off that, gee, she's calling me. I'm really not prepared to provide that kind of information, though I know about abuse. And I pretty much said to her that she should at least go to the police and tell them what's going on and take it from there and see what they recommend. I didn't leave my number. She has my number, and I told her if she had any other questions to call me. She was more concerned about the caregiver than she was about the person who was getting the care. So how would that be handled? Do you get calls from the police after people?
Yes. They're mandated reporters, as are social workers from the hospitals, doctors, the fire, EMTs, all mandated reporters. So if they went into a situation and they saw that someone was either self-neglecting or was being abused financially, sexually, emotionally, verbally, or physically, then they could make this report in confidentiality, and no name is disclosed, and then we're social workers. We're just trying to get out there to help the elder, and they have a decision that they can make to choose not to have services or any intervention, or if they're competent, or they can accept services. And really we're trying to get services in because many times it's the caregiver that is, maybe they're having emotional, financial, or whatever problems themselves, substance abuse, and so they're just not in the best place to be caring. And so maybe it's not intentional. Sometimes it is. We get calls from banks who will, if they notice someone's account is being withdrawn in large quantities, they know it's an elder, they'll call us as well. So there are a number of mandated reporters, but also family members and non-mandated reporters can call us, and we're really just trying to help the elder. So we're not looking at, the police intervention or jail or anything like that unless it warrants that. If someone's not competent to make a decision, then we're going to work with the doctor and see about getting a little bit more involved to protect them because they're not capable of doing that.
Now, what happens if you find the senior, the one who's being cared for, the loved one, is not cooperative, even though they're the ones who've come to you in the first place? What happens if they just say, well, I don't want to get my caregiver in trouble, I don't want to put that at stake because I really rely on her to take care of me? What situation is that?
Sorry, that's a very big issue for many. It's a loved one, it's a family member, and they do rely on them. So we often will say, what is it that we can do to help you, whether the caregiver or the elder, to get services in to maybe alleviate some of the stress, to set up some financial arrangement that secures their money while they still have the caregiver involved. So there's a lot of options, but it really is up to the elder. They determine what they want to do or not do.
Well, just getting back to what you said about the bank, when the bank sees that notices there's something out there regarding the accounts, does the bank go directly to the authorities, or do they first go to the one who's being cared for before they make a report?
Well, I'm not really sure because I'm not doing that job now, and when I was doing it, financial exploitation wasn't covered under the law, which it is now, but the bank may know the situation if the elder is not really cognitively aware. That may be a red flag for them, or they may be talking to the elder first saying, we're concerned about this, and then make some decisions after that. So I'm not really sure what happens first, and many banks may do things a little bit differently.
Well, what happens if they determine through your agency or through the authorities that this person's really at risk, but she's not willing to make that kind of decision to have intervention? Do they then go into court, and a court that she be appointed a guardian or guardian litem? Does that ever? Good
question. Only if there's suspicion that they may have some cognitive impairments, that they're not capable of making the right decision. But if they're of sound mind, or they haven't been deemed incompetent, that's a whole different process that we would go to the next level. But if they appear to be competent and there's no real concern, that elder has the right to make that decision, good or bad. It's their choice.
So if we have a situation where the police get involved and they reach out to your agency, then your agency would then contact the person who's at risk, and then from there determine whether or not they want to approach the caregiver about getting help?
They're going to work with the elder first. Very first thing is to see what the elder wants to do. They will try and get as much information and talk with collaterals beforehand so that they have a good sense before they go in, but it really is the elder that is calling the shots.
So, and once the intervention, once the senior does give you permission to go forward and speak to the caregiver, do you find that the caregiver is usually very cooperative and open to getting the kind of services that they need to correct their behavior?
Many are, and this is the situation. You'll have spouses who are already frail themselves, trying to take care of their spouse, and they're just maybe not capable of doing it, but they're not aware. It's a slow progression that over time they've just become less able to, and this is a great opportunity for us to get in with an intervention of putting in services, whether it's, if they qualify through us or through another agency, then we would be working to get those services in to alleviate if it's neglect. Another situation, if the caregiver has some substance abuse problems, say it's a daughter or son, we're going to try to work with them on getting them the help and support they need, because caregiving is very stressful. Right. So it's just another added layer to whatever the situation is for the caregiver.
Just going back to what you said about the spouse who's also frail, do they usually say to you, I'm okay, you don't need to be here, I'm fine, I'm taking good care of her, I don't need any help? Do you find that often with
Yes.
seniors?
There is resistance because it's an admission that I can't do it alone. And so we're always trying to say to caregivers, you should not have to do this alone. This is not a one-person job. You know, the health declines over the course of many years for some, and they just don't even realize it's gotten to the degree that it has, that they just can't do it. Plus their health is compromised. So it's a really tough situation for us to push them into, not push, but to get them to accept services. So we might start slow and easy. Well, let's try home delivered meals. We run the nutrition program at our agency and all the other 27 home cares throughout the state, so that if somebody is in need of meals and the caregiver says, oh, that's one less thing I have to do, then we're going to start with that. And then maybe it is, well, we could have somebody come in to help bathe and dress your loved one, and that just gives you a little bit more time for yourself. That's another option. And then maybe it's, well, let us do some housework or shopping or laundry. These are all services that we can provide. We have contracts throughout our communities to have agencies go in that do these jobs. And it may be having them go to an adult day health center program that they can go a couple of days a week. We have contracts with several in our areas, and that gives the caregiver a day off to do things for themselves.
What happens if it's come a situation where the caregiver just doesn't want to deal with it anymore? That I'm leaving, you know, it's somebody needs to be in here, but I'm not going to do it anymore. I just can't handle the stress, and I really don't want to get involved in your program, or has gone through the program and still finds that they can't deal with the situation. What happens then?
Well, we need to look at the first and foremost important thing is the safety of the elder in their own home. Our philosophy at Elder Services of Worcester is to keep people in their home as long as possible. And so with services, can we do that and still keep them safe? You know, we have contracts with the Lifeline program, and, you know, the personal emergency response system, medication dispensing. So if those things can be put into place, and also maybe looking at another family member. Is this person able to maybe step in and do a little less than what the other caregiver who's stepping out of that role can do? It really varies according to what the needs of the elder are.
That's very interesting. It's a lot of information, but I think it's important that both the caregiver and the one who's being cared for understand what's out there. So tell me about the Family Caregiver Support Program.
So this is a program that started about 13 years ago, and what happened was the federal government finally realized what an incredible role that caregivers play in providing millions of hours and saving billions of dollars in care to loved ones. These are family members, friends, neighbors, anybody can be a caregiver. And so the federal government created the program nationally and gave all the states money to implement this program to try and focus on the caregivers' needs and supporting them in their role. So in Massachusetts, we started it with working together with all the home cares, and they broke us up into regions. So I was working with Tri-Valley, which is in southern Worcester County, and Montechusett Home Care.
And which towns is Tri-Valley?
They cover 22 towns. They go all the way down to Milford. And the Montechusett Home Care goes all the way up to northern Worcester County, which is as far as Winchendon. We go out as far as Barry, and we do Grafton and Shrewsbury and Worcester and the surrounding towns. But then you can get into 24 other home cares, or they also call them Aging Service Access Points. So we shorten it to ASAPs. They can call an ASAP in their area and find out who it is that would be in their cover their towns, and then talk to the people who do the same job as I do. So my focus is on caregivers, and this is just one of the programs at Elder Services. So we would be working with the caregiver to see what are their needs. Many caregivers don't even know what are the resources in the community. They have no idea what is adult day health, what is a medication dispensing system, you know, homemakers who can do personal care and bathing and shopping, etc. So we're trying to get that information to the caregivers and support them. We can't do everything, and sometimes there are caregivers who are doing so much because their goal is to keep a loved one in their home. And sometimes it might be us, our agency, because we're a private nonprofit. We want people to start with us. We get a lot of state and federal funding, and we want to see if we can fit them into a program that we offer. If not, or if we do, it might be limited number of hours or services. Then caregivers and the individual, the elder themselves, they don't have to have a caregiver to go through us. They could supplement with a private agency such as yours. So we find that that can be beneficial because it can be more cost effective, and it also opens the doors to other supports. We try and encourage caregivers to attend a caregiver support group. They're free, they're offered regularly, mostly on a monthly basis for a couple of hours, and it gives caregivers a chance to meet with other caregivers doing the same thing as themselves. And that, I think, is something that everyone needs to do, because if you look at the statistics, caregivers tend to self-isolate. They're so busy taking care of their loved one, they don't have time to take care of themselves, so they have a higher rate of depression, they have a higher mortality rate amongst their peers, so that it's really important for them. And they'll say, well, no, I'm the only one who can do it. It's, you know, I have to do it. And we say to them, if you don't take care of yourself, what's going to happen to the person you're caring for if something should happen to you?
Well, it's interesting because private care agencies generally are there to help the person who needs the help, the loved one who needs the care, but they're also there to help the caregiver. Right, this time that you need to get away, and they contact these agencies to tell them, gee, I'm doing a great job of caring for my loved one, but I need a break. Do you do those kind of services? Do you provide that kind of a service? And yes, agencies do provide the service. We're there to to give the caregiver a break. It's just pretty much like you were saying before.
Right, and that, I think, is the best thing that the caregiver can do, because if you think about it, the caregiver and the care recipient are spending a lot of time together, and this can be a nice break for the care recipient or the person they're caring for as well, because that is just a lot of time together, and it can build resentment, it can build anger. The caregiver, not all, many people, if you ask them, they'll say, if I had to do it all over again, I would. They might do it differently, though. They might get services in a little quicker. They might find other supports. We ask them, look at other family members. Is there anybody who can help you? And I've had so many caregivers say, well, nobody comes and asks to do anything. So I say, maybe you need to tell them or ask them, because they don't know. They'll say, oh, John's doing a fine job. He's taking care of all of it. He doesn't ask for anything. So that's not always the case. They need a break. Caregivers really need a break. They need support. And if they can't get it informally through family members or friends or neighbors, then they should be calling a service to see what else they can access.
Well, it's interesting because there's a program that the VA, the benefit program for veterans, that's out there called Aid in Attendance. And it's a popular program, but nobody knows about it. And so my question is, how do caregivers know about these programs? So
that's one reason to call us, because I think...
How do they find out about you in the first place?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we know that the internet is a huge way for people. If you Google caregiver, you can't imagine how many options come up for the caregivers looking. But then you can narrow it down. So one of the biggest things that I'd like people to know is that throughout the country, no matter where you are, there are agencies called Area Agencies on Aging. They're AAAs. And if you can find out the Area Agency on Aging, no matter what state you live in, they'll be able to give you the contact. In the state of Massachusetts, we have the ASAPs, or home cares. So they would automatically say, okay, this is the ASAP that you would call. But outside the state, every state has different run programs, but everyone has a AAA or an Area Agency on Aging. So that's where you might want to start. The Elder Care Locator, you can call it. It's a 1-800, which I don't have on me, or on the website. And you plug in your zip code, and it will bring you up. So the Elder Care Locator is through it's the ssa.gov. And that'll bring you to the town where there's a AAA, and then you can contact them that way.
I would assume that the senior centers play a large role in that as well. Is that usually the first resource that people go to?
Good point. Senior centers are also crucial. They service a higher functioning elder than we see at Elder Services. We service a much frailer population, but it is a good place for people to go to find out not only about what the resources are in their community, but also what programs they have to offer as well. And they're all run differently. It's all depending on the funding of the town and how much is put into their programs.
And this service and programs is open to the general public. It's not income-based at all?
With the Family Caregiver Support Program,
right.
You're right. There is no income guidelines, whereas with the home care piece of it, if you're interested in our services, because we are state funded in those programs, we look at you have to be age eligible, 60 and over, unless you have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or a related dementia. You have to be income eligible, and you have to be need eligible. So you have to have some issues with not being able to take care of certain parts of your daily living, dressing, grooming, bathing, a number of things. But we also have our information and referral department, and this is where we have a huge database of information. So if you were to call me and say, I need somebody to come in and cut my mother's hair, she can't get out of the house, right. We would have a list of hairdressers in our area that go into the home, or foot doctors who make home visits, or shopping, grocery stores that deliver to the elder. So we want people to call us, whether it's for our services or just to see what are some of the other resources. Elder law attorneys. You know, I'm always talking to caregivers about a number of things. You know, seek an elder law attorney. First and foremost, find out what it is you can and can't do. What are some of the legal pieces of caregiving that need to be done right away instead of too late. The other thing is to find out, you know, like I said, some of the other resources, but housing options. So many people don't know. Years ago, you lived in your home or you went into a nursing home. Now there are so many options in between that we want people to know what is available, and we can give them the list.
And can you just talk about what kind of other options there are for housing?
So you have the subsidized housing. Some of those subsidized housings have really high levels of income guidelines. Even if you own your home, it can, you know, and you're going to sell, shouldn't stop you. You should be really calling your town's housing authorities to find out what's available. Assisted livings. There are housings with private housing, condos. We don't have to worry about the lawn and the outside work and the maintenance and all that. There's housing developments that have meal programs. In Worcester, we have a couple of them. So that might be the one issue, that the elder just needs help with their meal prep. And this is, you know, they're still living independently. And then you get into assisted livings, continuing care, retirement communities, rest homes. They're a dying breed, but there are still rest homes out there. They still have some independence. It's less costly than a nursing home. And they're still able to do some of their own personal care.
So what exactly is your role in this, with this agency?
So I am the Caregiver Specialist, and my role is to really talk with caregivers, from any caregiver who lives in my area, but maybe taking care of an elder who lives either in the same area or outside. So I've had caregivers call me and say, my mother lives in Connecticut, but I'm really looking for services. I'm not sure what to do, so I'll have that conversation. Or it could be the flip, where mom is living in the Worcester area and the daughter lives in Ohio, and she is like, I don't know what services are out there. Can you help me to set up something or to talk to somebody? So I'm going to help guide them. A lot of what I do is listen and offer support, suggestions. Another big problem that comes up for caregivers is that they get a diagnosis or they're told by the primary care physician, oh, your mother has dementia, and that's it. But there's no real follow-up or testing to determine what kind of dementia is it. We have learned so much about the different dementias that have different behavioral problems that come with it, or different cognitive losses, some more than others. So if a family member knows what to expect, it makes all the difference in the world. Like, oh, okay, that's part of the disease. So whether it's Parkinson or Alzheimer's or stroke, there's so many reasons for somebody to find out as much as they can about the disease.
So I would think that the caregiver that has to deal with a loved one who has dementia would probably be the biggest problem that you deal with?
Those are the ones I see the most. They're not the only, but I think they're the ones who are most stressed. It's a really difficult disease to deal with.
Right.
Every day is different. They're good one day and they're having a conversation and they seem lucid, and then the next day or even 4 hours later they're confused, they're repeating, they're agitated, any number of things. And so that's why it's important for the caregiver to know about this disease and to be prepared for what lies ahead.
Well, so just talk briefly about these daycare, because I would think that's very important, because it really does give the caregiver a break if they can go. And where are those programs usually offered?
Okay, so if you call our agency, start with us, we can, we have contracts with some but not all. And if you qualify, maybe we can pay for a couple of days. An adult day health is a day program set up for the elder who needs more structure, and socialization is key. That can really slow diseases down. If you're sitting in front of the TV all day and you're not using your mind, chances are you're not going to be as effective over time. But if you're engaged with people, you're interacting or doing something, there'll be projects, there'll be reading the newspaper, there'll be exercises, there'll be interactions with entertainment, whatever. So these day health programs are really a nice break for the caregiver, as well as a great program for the elder themselves.
Well, we're running out of time, but I think we can go on and talk about so much more about this topic. Can you just tell the audience how they would get in touch with you, how to get in touch with the agency, your phone number, and the website?
Sure. So Elder Services of Worcester area. We're located over 67 Millbrook Street in Worcester, and the number is 508-756-1545. And our website would be www.eswa.org.
If you need any more information about that, what Deb just said, because she just gave you a lot of information, you can always send me an email to alwaysthere@westborotv.org. Deb, I want to thank you for coming on. I think you've provided a lot of important information.
Thank you for having me.
And I highly recommend to any caregivers out there or those who are receiving care to really take advantage of these programs that the state provides. So thank you for joining us, and I look to see you next time.